What's going on, gamers, and welcome to episode 7 of Average Gamer, and welcome to 2017. In this episode, we're going to be covering 3 topics. The first topic will be the Nvidia CES keynote disaster, and the second topic will be why is linearity in games frowned upon these days. And to finish up the podcast, we're going to be taking a look at the Nintendo Switch reveal event, and we're going to be covering the rumored launch lineup for the system, and then giving you a few predictions as well. Now, by the time this episode goes up, the event will have already happened, but we thought it would still be cool to kind of throw in our kind of predictions and what we expect from the event, and to look back in retrospective when this cast is actually up on Monday, and you guys will be able to see straight away whether we were right or we were wrong with our expectations and predictions. And finally, before we jump into the cast, I'd like to say a big thank you to Jason, who was our #1 subscriber and was actually generous enough to give us 4 games as giveaways, which we are giving away on the podcast. Now, we're giving away 2 of the games in this episode, and we're giving away 2 of the games in next episode. And those games will be Gears of War 1, 2, 3, and Gears of War Judgment. Now, all you have to do to be eligible to pick up 2 of these games in this episode is to find a little audio clip that I've hidden in the episode from either myself, Grant, or Joe that sounds very unusual and out of place. Now, I'll give you the rest of the details at the end of the podcast, so make sure you listen all the way through, you find that clip, and pay attention to the end, because that's how you get the last details for the giveaway. But other than that, enjoy the cast, and here's Joe with the Nvidia CES keynote disaster.
Yeah, well, I've already done a couple of videos on this, as you guys will have seen, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. But basically, Nvidia's keynote speech at CES was, well, in my opinion anyway, a bit of a disaster. And they announced a new GeForce Now service, which is going to be $25 for 20 hours, or even or even worse, $25 for 10 hours if you want the higher service.
The higher
they also
service.
announced, the better service apparently. So if you're going to access a GeForce 1080, you'll get the 10 hours service. So if you want to play at 1080p or whatever, you're going to have to pay even more. So it gets even worse when you look at it like that. They also announced 2 new Shield products, and meet the new Shield, same as the old Shield.
Shield.
Meet the new Shield. Sorry.
And they told us that we're getting a 16 gig one, which is the only difference really from the 2015 versions is the 16 gig is a smaller form factor. I think, although I'm not absolutely certain, that the 500 gig version is the same size as the original Shield, but hardly surprising given that it is the original Shield just repackaged. But what was confusing there was that they were talking about bringing forward some new software. So, for instance, we're getting Amazon 4K coming to the new Shield. And that was causing those 2 things, the GeForce Now service at $25 and the new software for the new Shield, upset quite a few people because we thought that, hey, what's happening to the current Shield, and people like me who own the current Shield. And it actually transpired that actually the £749 a month for GeForce Now on the Shield is staying. And this new service, which is also called GeForce Now at $25 for 20 hours, is a separate service with the same name. And also, so it got very, very confusing. And actually, when you look at it, it's not too bad, but it was an absolute clusterfuck. And I said that in my video, but it was a disaster.
What I fail to understand is, why was this not made transparent and clear in their keynote? Were they worried about drifting away from their refresh and their new kind of pay scheme and package that they couldn't quickly touch on previous owners of the OG model?
Well, it doesn't make any sense because they're talking about this new service, this $25 for 20 hours, and it didn't even relate to the Shield at all. Actually, it's for Macs and PCs, for people who've got Macs or PCs that can actually play games that haven't got the grunt. Yeah. So you'll be able to. Which, I mean, it's still a crazy service if you ask me. I mean, the hardcore gamers aren't going to use the service because, frankly, they've already got a PC that can do the job. or they're not interested in PC gaming and they've got a console and they're happy with that. And the casual gamers are going to be like, well,
WTF?
You know, I'm not...
yeah, just
yeah, exactly.
Just quickly, number one subscriber being Jason, actually brought it to my attention last week that On Live, do you guys remember that service? The kind of the original streaming service was actually bought by Nvidia a number of years ago. So this whole Nvidia kind of service, I think, has been in the works for, probably a very long time.
Yeah, I remember On Live because that was one of the first sort of mentions of this idea of cloud streaming games, isn't it? From like, I to be honest with you, I'm confused how the Nvidia thing works. So will the box itself be playing the games, or is it being streamed from somewhere else?
Well, that's an interesting one because it's it offers both. You can have games on the system, or you can use the streaming service. And you can play Android games, and you get special versions of Android games that are designed for use with a controller that work with the Shield. And some of those are not too bad, actually. Obviously, they're still Android games, but they're not too bad. And then you get like PC games that you can stream. And you can stream them. If you've got a PC that's got some games on that PC, you can stream them to the Shield as well. And that doesn't cost you a penny.
There are Shield products that are dedicated to processing locally, though, aren't there? Like I've seen they have apparently tablets in their range as well, which are capable of playing Borderlands and all that. Is that right?
Yeah, well, the stuff that the tablet can do is basically the same as what you can do with the Shield TV. I mean, the only difference is that the tablet is a little bit older than the Shield TV now. It's been out a little bit longer. But it essentially does the same thing.
Let me guess, it's called a Shield tablet.
Exactly. And you had before that, you had the Shield handheld, which was the clamshell one,
I think this whole thing it's just so confusing. I'm lost. I don't really know what they're trying to sell.
I bloody own one, and I'm fucking lost.
I mean, what sort of...
They're delivering a small form factor kind of PC, whether it be in a tablet or a handheld, which is capable of doing light to moderate gaming on the device. And then I guess they're sticking with the kind of low to medium range power for the TVs and the Shield boxes. And I guess their new selling point is, hey, you can play some kind of hardcore games on here like Borderlands, maybe, I don't know, Call of Duty at low settings. I'm not sure what's available on the box, but, it's got the power to play games, to a certain graphical level. And then obviously if you want to...
360.
Yeah. Oh, okay, well, there you go. And if you want to go above that, then I guess they have the streaming service for people that either A, don't own one of these boxes, or B, do own one of these boxes, but want to get the best visual experience that you can get on these boxes. Is that kind of it in a nutshell, Joe? Or?
It's kind of like that, but it gets more confusing because obviously then when you factor in the fact that there's two streaming services with the same name,
that's confusing.
Which just muddies the waters terribly. I mean, the GeForce Now has existed, for some time now, and it was available. I think it was available as early as the original clamshell model. Don't quote me on that. I might be wrong on that, but it has been around for a while now, and it's not a bad service. From what I understand, I don't actually use it personally because, frankly, I've got a PC, PlayStation, Xbox, the Shield for the Android games and all that kind of stuff, and I use it primarily as a streaming device. And as a streaming device, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's the most powerful streamer out there.
I get the appeal of that. I totally get that, but what I think Nvidia don't seem to realize is because if you do the comparison, and I made this point in your video, the comparison to PlayStation Now, okay, so you're streaming games that you might not otherwise be able to play because you don't have a PS3 anymore out, or for whatever reason, you don't have any other way of playing them. So, but what they don't seem to realize in Nvidia is that game streaming services are just not profitable because people aren't convinced by them as a service.
No, because
if you've got a decent enough PC, you're not going to be using that service. If you haven't, you're kind of in this kind of middle ground area where you're going to be playing either tablet or mobile games or console games. If you've got, chances are you've got one of the consoles if you're interested in gaming. And PlayStation Now have just had to cut the cost of the service because no one's bloody using it. It's gone down to $100 a year apparently. Recently,
which it needed to, because it was overpriced. To be honest,
it was overpriced. Yes, I agree, it was. But the fact is, people aren't using it. I mean, it's not that profitable. I don't know if it is profitable for Sony, but I know that not many people use. They won't release figures, but the guess is
that's
from
always
the
a bad
industry
sign.
Is it's not very popular. It's in the hundreds of thousands.
Isn't PS now only for the previous generation games though? Or are they doing PS4 games as well?
No, they don't do PS4 games. It's just previous gen.
Yeah, I wonder if that... Like, obviously, there's a huge demand for previous gen games, but I wonder if that factors into it, that you can't get like the latest games. I wonder if people would get the latest games through that service.
Well, I think you've just hit the nail on the head there, because I was thinking pretty much along the same lines, and I was thinking with whether you're looking at the Shield or whether you're looking at PS Now, if you got an exclusive game that came out for either the Shield GeForce Now service or for the PlayStation Now service, and it was exclusive to that service and that service alone, and it was a AAA and it was a monster, then people would start taking those seriously, those services seriously.
Yeah.
You're
right.
At the moment, it's just an add-on that you might dabble your toe in, but it's not something that you're going to do as your main gaming platform.
Yeah. I think as well, if Nvidia had a larger install base, like let's say I owned a tablet, I owned the TV box, I don't know, maybe I owned one of their third devices as well. If I could have access to, through their service, to that game on any device, kind of like you do with the Xbox Play Anywhere, then it might be a lot more appealing. But when you just got that one TV box and you're paying a ridiculous subscription plan for it, it's just not worthwhile. And then you got to factor in as well that people, I think, are put off by these streaming services because they're predicting or foreseeing issues with the delivery of the game to their TV. Like how many... I can't sit here... Like I'm on fiber optic. I don't sit here thinking that I'm going to get, a one-for-one experience through a streaming service like I would with, computing the game on my PC or my Xbox. I just don't think it's going to be up to snuff compared to doing all the processing locally.
Yeah.
Well, you've again made a point there, because you're talking about being able to use it across platforms. Now, you would think if you're trying to look at providing a service like that, a streaming service across platforms, and grow the service, you would think that Nvidia would have been savvy enough not to have introduced a second service doing the same thing for a different pricing scale.
Yeah, precisely.
You would have thought, if you look at the Shield, then I think it's $7.49 a month for the Shield service. And you can play any of the games on that service. They do offer some of the more up to date games as well, and you have to pay extra for those. And I hate services that do that. If you're playing a subscription, you're playing a bloody subscription. This is why I much prefer Netflix over Amazon Prime Video, because Amazon Prime Video, half the time you go in to play something and then you have to pay extra money for it, especially the 4K movies, which are bloody £20 or whatever.
Yeah, I just like to say fuck Amazon on the podcast. Sorry.
This should be your catchphrase.
Well, they're
Graham.
never sponsoring us.
Yeah.
But you would think that Nvidia would have done that. They would have said, okay, $7.49 a month. If you've got your Shield and you're paying your $7.49 a month and you want to have that service on your PC, fill your boots. Why have a second service? It makes no sense whatsoever. They're competing with themselves now.
How does the pricing compare between the two services, though? Is the new structure completely inferior and unfair compared to the old one?
Well, I suppose it depends what you want. But, I mean, think about it this way. A lot of people, $7.49 a month, I mean, I look at it and I think, well, I've got loads of other stuff I subscribe to. $7.49 a month, am I going to use it enough to justify it? Well, probably not. But if I wasn't subscribing to other things and I looked at the games, and there were a few games on there that I didn't have on other systems, I'd look at it and I think $7.49 a month, well, you buy a magazine, it's almost that these days. It's not a huge amount of money. I could probably pay $7.49 a month and I wouldn't notice it that much going out of my account. And, I could sit down and play those games anytime I like. $25 or for 20 hours or $25 for 10 hours if you want the better service.
What is the better service? Like, I don't understand. Like, are they streaming it to you in 4K or something?
Well, basically, no. It'd be at this stage. It's. I mean, the potential's there if you've got the bandwidth. I presume down the line, because I remember a couple of years ago when they were talking about this, they were talking about the potential for streaming 4K. That ain't going to happen at this stage, not with games. But I think at the moment what it is they're talking about their servers, and depending on what graphics capabilities you're getting from those servers. And I think the better servers that you'll be accessing, presumably that's what they mean, are having either or the equivalent of at least the GeForce 1080 in. So in theory they should be able to pump out some serious graphical power. For £25 for 20 hours is apparently supposedly inferior to that. So I don't know. You'd have to, until people start seeing the service in action, it's very difficult to say.
What
isn't it?
A crock of shit.
Exactly.
Why should I have to pay more for a graphical slider or checking a few boxes? I mean, I could run the same visuals that a 1080 could on my 1070. Not at the same frame rate, obviously, but still probably at an acceptable frame rate, and it didn't cost me anything extra.
Yeah, the thing is though, what you got to
sorry.
What you got to remember is people will not pay for a limited time. It's the psychology of sort of marketing and sales is that people are used to a mobile phone model where they pay a monthly fee like Netflix. Yeah, okay, if you're going to tell them they can get 20 hours for X amount of money and it's time limited, they're going to turn their nose up at it. It doesn't work.
Shit.
Yeah, because people hate
when
it.
Sony suggested it for their PlayStation Now service, everyone went fucking batshit crazy over it. You're fucking joking, aren't you?
Do you guys remember all the PC kind of like LAN places that you'd have where you'd walk in and you'd buy 2 hours for $15 and you sit down, you go in with a few buddies and you'd play Battlefield 2 on LAN? It's almost like we're seeing that again now, but we're seeing the online equivalent.
Yeah, that only worked up to the point where internet wasn't fast enough for people to do it at home. But as soon as it tipped over the other way, they went out of business. It's only in Korea where it's a weird anomaly where people go out to these PC bangs to play these games. But in other countries, they don't. They do it at home. But it's and they want to pay. They want to pay a simple monthly fee. They don't want to pay a time limited.
Well, that's it. If you had a service like Netflix and you had a huge array of games and it was simple as picking up your controller, scrolling through a huge catalogues of games, and this is just covered under my, 30 Australian dollars a month. I just flick through, I'm like, boom, Call of Duty, select it, and you're playing and you're off and you're going. Like, if it was something as seamless and as easy as that rolled into an all subscription, then you'd have my attention as long as the service was stable and consistent. You'd probably have my money at least to try it out.
Yes. At the moment, I think these services are just testing the waters, and I think that I said in one of my videos, sadly for me, this feels like this is what's going to be the future. That we will be paying a subscription service for our games like we do for Netflix. But I don't actually think that we're there yet. I don't think that the bandwidth's there. The latency and so on and so forth that we're going to get, it's just not there. And it's okay for, dipping your toe in and having a quick go, but it's not, if you're playing seriously, you're never going to play like this.
Well, how many times do you sit at home going, I have fiber optic or I have a solid internet connection, but then half the time or every so often in every night, your YouTube video gets stuck buffering or something? You're put off with the idea of doing a streaming service because that's what you're terrified of happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, just to spitball an idea, if anybody was to really tackle this whole streaming thing, and I guess the people that already have the license to do so with a huge catalogue of games, could you see Steam or more likely Valve doing it?
Oh yeah, I think it will happen in the long run.
I can see it as a possibility as well, But I think they're looking at it to see, see what happens with, what Nvidia are doing. But I can only see it failing for Nvidia because it's too confusing.
Oh, it's a complete joke. I mean, what on earth they are thinking is beyond me. And the whole thing, if you go back to looking at the announcement of the new shields and the way they did it, and they're talking about all the new features they're going to have, didn't mention that all these new features are coming to the existing shields, and all the people like me are sitting at home going, "You fuckers, you're going to leave us behind." No, they weren't. They weren't going to leave us behind. They didn't tell us that.
No.
It's just like they didn't know what they wanted to do. Do we want to make out that this is some new great piece of hardware and we're pushing this out the door? Well, no, it wasn't a new piece of hardware. It had exactly the same chip inside it, the same amount of memory. Everything about it is exactly the same, apart from the 16 gig version being a smaller form factor. And a new controller.
See, I'd honestly, if I was going to buy one, I'd go out and buy the original model at a discounted price.
Well, it's the same model. It's exactly the same piece of kit. I mean, I think the only difference you're getting with the newer ones, I'm not sure whether this is porting across to the older ones. You're getting with 4K now, the higher dynamic range. Yeah, anyway, let's move on.
That pretty much wraps up our Nvidia stuff. So let's move on to you, Grant, with the linearity being kind of a dirty topic or word or...
Yeah, I think it's really about how, I think this stems back to around about... Well, I heard someone say GTA 4. When did GTA 4 come out? Does anyone remember out of interest? I might have to quickly Google it. But basically, if you think about the GTA effect, which is with each installment in the GTA series, so from 3 onwards, I'm talking about when it went open world. Because each game... 2008, okay. So... because GTA 4 sold incredibly well, not obviously as well as GTA 5, but that's a phenomenon in itself. Since AAA developers and publishers looked at the success of that game, they greenlit a lot of open world games. So they started to greenlight open world games around 2008 and 9. So if you think of the development cycle being about 3 years, around 2011, 12, 13, we started to see a lot of AAA games becoming predominantly open world. So if you think of Fallout 3, which came out in 2011 maybe, or 10, that was really a catalyst. And then after that you had Skyrim, 2011. There was other sort of big titles as well, but more importantly, what's happened is games that weren't originally designed to be open world have been almost forced into an open world design ethos because of the fact that everyone seems to be chasing this sort of GTA money. And really, I know that gaming is a business and games have to sell well, but it's getting to the stage where, I mean, Ubisoft are incredibly guilty of this because all the Assassin's Creed games are virtually identical to each other, and they've got
Wildlands coming out in a couple of months as well, I think.
Yeah, and that's going to be open world because all their games are open world. They don't seem to do anything else. It's like every single map has to be filled to the brim with pointless collectibles. And what I would say is that part of the reason is business related, but also there came a point when, and this was partly due to journalists as well as gamers, people began to criticize games for being too linear. And I don't know when it happened, or what the actual cut-off point was, but that argument became like a dominant sort of part of the debate, in the sense that developers and publishers start to listen to this and think, oh, maybe our games are too linear. Let's try and make them as emergent and as interesting as possible, as well as commercial, and just make everything open world. And then people won't criticize us for being linear. But it's gone the other way. And now we've got these games that are too big. They take too long to complete. And people have, as I've said before, people haven't got the time to complete them. And I think there's a case can be made for games to be linear because it's a good thing. Because I said in the video, if you look at Gears of War, the campaign, you had all these cinematic moments. Uncharted has the same thing. You get these great set pieces. You simply can't do that in an open world game because of the nature of an open world is that you have to spread yourself over this sort of large canvas. And, by doing that, you can't create these kind of moments that you can in a narrative-driven game. So I think there's an argument that AAA gaming has become lopsided, where you get a tiny proportion of developers like Naughty Dog are still doing campaign-driven narrative games, and then you've got Ubisoft who are chucking out open worlds left, right, and centre, and people I think are getting fed up with them. To be honest,
I certainly am. I don't want to be wandering around in a wilderness unless it's done very, very well. And let's be honest, I mean, it's Sturgeon's law again, isn't it? And 90% of everything's crap. But let's be honest that most open world games are, for the most part, garbage. I'm probably emphasizing it there, but there's an awful lot of, in effect, shovelware. You talk about Ubisoft. I mean, Jesus, you go in, you play those games, and I don't want to be overcritical because there are some good bits in those games.
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
like when you, I used the analogy the other day. It's like when you pick up a book and it's like an airport novel, and
that's right.
You stick it in your bag and you break your shoulder because it's so bloody heavy.
Yeah.
But the actual content in the book is about a quarter of what is, all the words in there. This is all this bloody word salad in there that doesn't really add up to anything, and the actual content is tiny. And this is what we're getting. We're getting a lot of games that are padded beyond belief, but there's no real the real content, the real interesting stuff is really hard to find because it's covered in all this other gubbins.
Yeah, what was it that is it Total Biscuit who I think he was talking about Skyrim. He said it's as wide as an ocean but as deep as a puddle. And he said, and the problem is a lot of
No Man's Sky, was it?
And it might have been. That could apply to No Man's Sky as well. But that can be that criticism can be sort of leveled at a lot of open world games. Because of their nature, because it's very difficult to create a deep experience when over 50 hours or 100 hours. It's like, how do you do it?
When you were talking about GTA, the thing that struck me was that, after GTA in 2008, we got all these games started to come out that were open world. And it struck me as being a bit like after 1977 when we got Star Wars and everybody wanted to make the same film. So we've got all these films that were inferior to Star Wars that were trying to be the same bloody thing. And it's gone on for years. And unfortunately, I think this is what's going to happen with games and open world gaming. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to see an end to open world gaming.
No,
but
I don't either.
I want to see quality open world gaming, and I want to see other types of gaming as well. I don't want to just see these bloody great sprawling things.
When you talk about other types of gaming, for me, I don't disagree. I agree with what both of you are saying, but I think games are being forced into these cookie cutters. Like, you've got people chasing the whole online kind of aspect of what, the Elder Scrolls series brought to the table and what Grand Theft Auto brought to the table. And then you've got a lot of other studios and developers chasing the Call of Duty cookie cutter model, which is very linear. And, one of my favorite game series being Halo. Halo 4 was heavily criticized because it was so linear. Like, it lost a lot of its open sandbox kind of aspect that it's always had through 1, 2, 3 and into Reach. Like, it lost that. And whether it was
sorry, I'm playing through Halo 1 at the moment. It's quite linear. It doesn't
it
feel
is
that
yeah
open.
it is linear, but it often will open you up into these big play spaces with vehicles, and you have a few different kind of paths that you can take. Halo 1 it has got it, but in number 2 and 3 you'll notice a lot more. Like, the play spaces are much larger, and then it'll funnel you into a complex when it turns into a corridor shooter. But 4 especially number 4, and I'm not sure whether they were chasing some kind of cookie cutter mold being Call of Duty or not, or whether it was a technical limitation for the 360 and they were more worried about pushing pixels than opening up the play areas. I don't know, but I'm just saying, there is a trend with people chasing these kind of molds, like feeling they have to fit into one mold or the other.
Well, it's like I said, it's business driven. At the end of the day, like Joe said, trends affect the development process. So if people say, for instance, I was listening to, I think it might have been GameSpot, but they were talking about the effect that Overwatch will have on game development, because that's had such a successful year in terms of its player base growing to like several million, that surely that's going to affect games that are being greenlit for development. Will we see a raft of team-based colourful shooters coming out over the next few years?
Well, remember when the MOBA? Remember when Dota took off and we got League of Legends, and then you had all the the Dota and League of Legends clones that popped up. They became cheaper by the dozen almost.
Yeah, and we've got them already with like Chinese copies of Overwatch coming out.
Yeah, that's it. Even Blizzard got on one. It's just, don't know.
It's like I mean, you see games like The Witcher or Witcher 3, which is an example of a good open world game because it has depth to its storylines, because they filled the world with people that seem alive, whereas in a lot of open world, a lot of the huge areas in the map are redundant. So there's nothing much for you to do. But my concern is that this, I don't want gaming to be unbalanced or lopsided. As a gamer, I want the choice. I want enough of a choice within mainstream gaming, because that's where I play most of my games. I don't mind playing indie titles because that's where, you can be more innovative because there's less risk, which I understand. But still, AAA gaming has a responsibility to the consumer to give them a little bit more choice than just open worlds or fuck all else.
Yeah, that's it though. I mean, I think everybody just constantly keeps gobbling it up though, don't they? I think that's why we keep getting the same shit over and over and over again.
Exactly right.
It's kind of the latest greatest though, isn't it? Sooner or later that people will get tired of that and move on to the next idea. The problem there is I think you've hit on this, Grant, is that you don't want next greatest idea. What you want is for the current idea to continue and to innovate and to be interesting and for something new to come along as well. So, we want variation in our gaming. We don't just want sort of 3 different sort of genres and that's all you can play. You want a lot of different options and a lot of variation. Otherwise, it just becomes boring. And why would you play them out? After a while, it's like years ago, I used to read, when I was in my teens, I used to read fantasy novels. Well, after you've read 3 or 4 of them, you might as well not bother anymore because they're all pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, they're all like Lord of the Rings clones.
Yeah, exactly. And so, after a while, you just go, well, this is not interesting to me anymore because I've been there, done that. Why would I read any more?
Yeah, I mean, it'll get to the stage where people, mainstream developers and publishers will have to be very clever about how they package these open world games because people would have seen it before, like you say. It's like, in order to keep them interested, you've already seen that, like the Call of Duty series is like taking a huge dip in sales because it's running out of ideas. It ran out of ideas, you could argue, several installments ago. But, it's like, where does it go? You can only go so far down one corridor before you hit the end and smack your head against the wall. So it's like,
they're being criticised for just going way off the beaten path, but if they stayed on the path, people would just be beating them for being the same.
Well, exactly. They can't win, really.
They're in a no-win situation. They're stuffed.
So it'll be interesting, and we'll follow this up in the next topic, but it's interesting to see what Ubisoft do, for instance, with the next Assassin's Creed game. How different will it be, in reality? Will it be the same thing, just slightly differently packaged? Or
yeah, you and I have our own theory on that, which we'll cover in the last segment. But on the surface, you would believe that the next Assassin's Creed game would be coming out the end of next year, and they took a year off to refresh the series and probably, redefine it and give it some new aspects. But we'll go into that in the next segment.
Don't get me wrong. You see, I like open world games. Last year I played a lot of open world games, but after a while I got thinking, I really want to play a linear campaign now, because I like the fact that I know I'm going to be playing a game for 15 hours. Dishonored 2 I finished recently. It was a 15-hour game. It's perfect length, exactly right, And I think it will get to the stage where the demand will shift. The gamers themselves will cause the market to shift by saying, I don't have 50 hours, I want to play a game for 20 hours. And then the market
or even if they do have 50 hours, they want 50 hours of quality, not 50, not 50 hours of running around doing bugger all and 5 hours of actually having something worthwhile to do.
Yes, precisely. And my hope is that, Gears of War 4 I put as an example in the video because I like the fact it was like 8 hours campaign. It was just about nice. Right. It fitted
short
within the context.
Punchy.
Yeah. Yeah, and it could
Yeah,
tell the story within that context.
Yeah, that's
really
it.
Well.
It had a story to tell, and it wanted to take you on a ride, and it did it.
Yeah.
Just no padding, just bang, bang, bang. Here you go.
Yeah, it was a if you were looking at it in terms of a film, it was a well put together action movie. It wasn't anything that was going to make you sort of question reality or worry about your existence or anything like that. You weren't going to have any existential problems after playing the game. But it was a ride, and it was a blast while you were playing it.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong in that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't Blade Runner. It was probably Total Recall, but that's fine.
As long as it wasn't the second Total Recall.
Yeah, exactly. Less said about that, the better. Yeah. Okay, I think we probably covered that subject then, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we've pretty much wrapped that up. So our last one, which we've already teased heavily, will be the Nintendo Switch rumored launch lineup, and we'll just maybe go around the table and do a couple of predictions for the reveal. Now, I've got the rumored leaked launch lineup for the Nintendo Switch. So on this list, we have Dragon Quest. The obvious one is Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is basically the only game that Nintendo seem interested in showing, other than unconfirmed titles being NBA and Skyrim, in the past. I'm not sure if they're confirmed now. They probably are confirmed, and I'm going to get chewed up in the comments.
Yeah.
We have Splatoon, Mario Kart 8, shocking, NBA, Elder Scrolls Skyrim, Mario, shocking, Sonic, Monster Hunter, Dragon Quest, Lego City, Just Dance 2017. Joe will be on that one. And we have something called Project Sonic 2017. I don't know why people feel they need to label things with the year. I can understand a sports series, but...
Yeah, wasn't this taken from some German... Somebody posted something on Reddit from some German shop or retailer where they had like a screen up with like an Excel spreadsheet, and it showed like some of the games as being like having incomplete titles. So I think that might account for why they're listed in this sort of a strange way.
I don't think that's an entire list either. I think that's probably a portion of the list, because I've seen other lists which detail the rest of the year, and I have seen another list which had an Assassin's Creed game on it, being Assassin's Creed Egypt, which was already heavily rumoured. But I think everybody assumed it would be launching at the end of the year, not launching on a Nintendo system.
But that says, the one I'm looking at now is from a website called Segment Next, and it says Assassin's Creed Egypt, March the 24th. So that's a week after launch. So is that realistic? Do we think that's going to come out? Or is it, like you say, is it just speculation at this point?
I think it's all just rumours and speculation. I mean, I've seen a few different leaked lists, and some of them are offering a lot more content than what the most recent leak was, that Excel leak sheet was.
That's right.
But I don't know, it's interesting. I mean, they haven't got a bad lineup. They've got a few sports titles, they've got a few third-party titles, and they've got their usual blend of Zelda, Mario, and Sonic. So it looks, if it is a true lineup, it looks like an okay launch lineup. But I mean, the thing that has my interest the most is, like you said, the Assassin's Creed Egypt game, because that has been rumored for a while, and I think a lot of people assumed, I actually found it bizarre that we had a year go by without an Assassin's Creed, and they also decided to release a movie as well. Like, I thought we'd get an Assassin's Creed game and we'd get the movie, a couple of weeks after, which I thought that timing was weird.
But like we discussed, we think that they tied this into an exclusive deal.
Yes,
or if it's true, then Ubisoft have been quiet because they've been told to be quiet, or they've signed an agreement with Nintendo just to basically have a timed exclusive on the Switch for the next Assassin's Creed game. It's a big coup if they've got it. Let's be honest. If this thing is going to sell, it needs really strong third party support, and if it's got EA support with the FIFA and NBA series, that's good as well. That's
and
obviously
Ubisoft,
a good thing.
Assassin's Creed. If they get an Assassin's Creed game that, after a year where we didn't get one, that could be huge for Nintendo. And I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo, for once in their fucking life, pulled out their wallet and bought some exclusive content
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they had enough money to shake in front of them to go, hey, just push your game, launch it, 3 months later on our system as a launch title, and then maybe we'll see, it'll be like a timed exclusive. Maybe we'll see Assassin's Creed Egypt come out, at the end of this year. It's a big if and maybe, but you'd think Nintendo have the coin to fund something like that.
I think we've criticised them in the
certainly
past,
do.
rightly so, for being out of touch. But if like you say, if they've realised that the world has changed and they need this strong third-party support in order to compete properly in the console market, then fair enough. You've got to give them the kudos for actually realising this and really stretching, really sort of putting the effort in to make this as competitive as possible. Because this is their last chance in the console market, as far as I'm concerned.
I think that if this is true, if it does turn out that this is an exclusive, and I think you're right, Sully, I think it'll be a timed exclusive. I don't think it'll stay off the other consoles indefinitely. I think it'll have a certain date when it'll come out on the others as well. Yeah. But if Nintendo have done this and it's like a timed exclusive for, say, I don't know, 9 months, a year, something like that, then that will be a big thing. And I think that's a good sign for the Switch. But I still think the elephant in the room is the power, because I don't think that it will be able to run. I mean, it might be able to run this game okay, but there's an awful lot of games that are going to be coming out it's simply not going to be able to handle.
Yeah,
If it's got the Tegra 1, which is basically what's in the Shield, we already talked about the Shield, and I'm sorry to go over old ground again, but we talked about, the capabilities of the Shield, and it's, a bit more powerful than a 360. Oh, it's a bit more than that, actually. It's somewhere between the 360 and the Xbox One. Well, if it's the same chip inside the Switch...
Which it is. It almost definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's only so much magic you can sprinkle on it to make it do extra stuff.
I mean, it will be barely pushing 720p if that's the case.
Well, yeah. That's why the screen on the Switch is. I can't remember whether it's confirmed. I'm assuming it's rumored, because Nintendo, they don't give out specs. Like, even when they launch the system, they won't give out specs. People are going to have to reverse engineer it to figure out what's in it and what it's actually capable of.
Which they'll do.
I believe it was a 720p screen on the portable.
That's right. Yeah.
So obviously they're going to be outputting 720p on the go. I'm assuming it's going to be capable of 1080p with probably scaled back resolutions for TVs, because let's be honest, nobody's going to buy a console in 2017 that can't output 1080p.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, the Shield can output 1080p a push, but. But even so, it's not going to be as powerful as the vanilla PS4 or even the vanilla Xbox One.
And that's concerning, considering we already have the refreshed PS4 being the PS4 Pro, and we have the Scorpio coming out this year. So what, are we going to see the Scorpio, a console that's literally probably going to be like 5 times more powerful than the Nintendo?
I don't know. I don't know. I have my doubts about what the Scorpio is going to be capable of, but that's another subject. I think the issue here is the power argument will be a problem, but I've heard people saying in the industry saying they don't think it's as big a deal as people are making out, precisely because Nintendo have never really competed at the high end of the technical market when it comes to their consoles. If you think of the only time that they have, I would argue, is with the N64.
When that had PS1.
Yeah, when that had technology that was like silicon graphics based, because they basically decided to go down a certain route. If they were going to keep cartridges, then the machine itself had to be quite powerful. But if you look at the GameCube, for instance, that wasn't a particularly technically great console. I mean, yeah, some developers did amazing stuff with that console. I mean, Metroid Prime was actually running at 60 frames a second on that, which in 2002 was just incredible. Just unheard of for a console. But Nintendo have never had since, or really the majority of their consoles haven't been cutting edge when it comes to technology.
The problem there is, though, that Nintendo had it much more their own way in the past.
Yeah, they did, because of their position in the industry was stronger in the past.
I think the thing that might save them here is not so much that they're historically not necessarily being that powerful in terms of their consoles, but I think what might save them might actually be, and I'm kind of arguing with what I've said in the past here, is the portable side of things. I think the fact that maybe you can, I mean, when you mentioned FIFA on it, if it's getting FIFA on it, the fact that you could play FIFA at home and then just pick it up and take it with you and play FIFA on the go, that's a really attractive proposition, and people are prepared to take a little bit of a hit if it'll do that.
Yeah, I mean, FIFA isn't a technically demanding game. FIFA runs on quite low-end PCs, I think. So this lineup is interesting because a lot of these games, I mean, we don't know obviously about the first-party games because we don't know much about them, but FIFA and NBA and Elder Scrolls, I mean, that's an old game in itself. Yeah. The Elder Scrolls. So you're thinking these games have got to be able to be run portably and through a 1080p TV. So technically, they have to be not at the higher end of the market in terms of the sort of technically demanding.
Yeah.
Which is probably why you'll probably find that the games have to fit a certain kind of sort of specific set of rules in order to work on the console. I don't know, because it's unusual. It's a hybrid machine, so it's got to be able to output these different resolutions and yet maintain like a decent frame rate between the two, because you're going to be picking it up and playing it on the go. Well, that's what they say you're going to
be consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, it remains to be seen how popular that concept is with gamers. But it's a decent lineup, but we don't know anything, obviously, about Super Mario Frostland or, some of the other stuff. But yeah, you've got a version of Minecraft, which is an old game as well.
I don't know, I'm just kind of curious as to how much this portable side of the console is actually going to be used, because obviously that's, people always go crazy. It's not a portable. Well, clearly it's, it's a portable. It doubles as a portable and a home console. It looks to me, from my point of view, to be more portable than a home console.
That's exactly
but I wonder how much that feature is going to be utilized. Like, how many people do you think are just going to buy this console because they like Nintendo or they want the new Nintendo console and they're just going to leave this thing permanently docked? Like, is the portable side of things really that bankable and sellable?
You know what? If you've got kids, I think it is.
Yes,
I was thinking about this the other day because I was having exactly this conversation in my own head the other day. I have these strange conversations, and I was kind of arguing with myself because I was coming from your perspective, Sully, and then I started thinking, yeah, but if I gave that to my kid, and he could pick it up and take it with him and play it in the back of the car, he would be over the moon.
Back of the car for kids.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be a winner.
Yeah, Mario Kart.
Nintendo. Yeah, that could be an absolute winner. Yeah.
Capturing the Wii again.
Yep.
Yeah,
they need. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, I said they might have deliberately done a lot of market research on this in order to try and tap that market, because parents taking kids on trips, if kids can be sitting in the back of the car playing this portable, and then maybe they take the dock with them and they plug it into someone's TV, say they're going on holiday. That's a winner, isn't it? I mean, how many people would take their console on holiday, for instance?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I know a few, but not many. And
not many. I mean, it's not as portable as something like that.
It'd be very cool if the docks are cheap and you could, for example, have a holiday house, you leave a dock there and you leave a dock at your main home as well, and you literally just pick up the portable, get in the car and then dock it on the other side.
That would be brilliant.
That is cool, yeah. It's a cool idea.
What would also be good, and Nintendo won't do this because it's Nintendo, would be if you could take your portable and dock it in someone else's dock.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, because then you could take your games with you and play at your mate's house, That would be cool.
Well, yeah, that would actually be... I feel like that would be in their best interest to do that. Like, in the trailer, their reveal trailer, they show a lot of, being friendly, catching up with your friends and being social. Like, you'd think that you'd be able to do that.
I would expect so, yeah, but I don't know for sure. Yeah.
It's Nintendo, so you never know, do you? I mean, it might blow up as soon as you put it in someone else's dock.
Does anyone else think, just looking at the picture of the Switch, is this just me? Because Joe, you were saying about having weird conversations with yourself. I keep looking at that picture of the Switch and thinking it looks like a dog's head with flappy ears on the side.
Oh no, I do as well.
Is that deliberate?
It's just Nintendo, isn't it? They're trying to make it cute. I'm sure they've got.
I think they are.
Make it look like a cute
I'm sure
little
they
animal.
are. Yeah, I'm sure it's deliberate because there was a dog in the advert, and I'm thinking, is this psychological? Are they trying to get us, you know, switched?
I think I've already seen. I think I've already seen plushie toys for it as well. So
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised because of the way it looks.
the merchandising's already kicked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear.
All right,
It's
so
gonna go.
if you
Sorry,
guys
go
had
on.
to give me one prediction each for the launch of the Nintendo Switch, what would it be?
Is this hardware or software or anything?
Anything you want related to the launch window of the Switch.
I can give it to you in 3 words if you want. Not enough stock.
Oh, I thought you were going to say dead on arrival or something.
No, I'm not going to say that because I actually
Not
think
enough
it will-
stock
it-
yet.
I think it would do well at launch. I think there's quite a lot of buzz about it that's positive.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but my concern
People
is
know what it is.
they won't be able to fulfill demand, and I think I've already heard rumors that there's not going to be that many available.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. I think they're apparently approaching the Switch launch extremely cautiously with how many units they're producing. So I wouldn't be surprised if, probably not to the same degree, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see supply issues like we did with the mini NES.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll definitely see supply issues. Definitely.
I'm actually the more I look at it, the more I'm actually becoming more interested in it as a concept because I think it's a good idea. But I probably wouldn't pre-order one. But probably wouldn't get one anyway. But I'll wait and see. I'll see how how it performs technically, how people receive it, what the actual launch lineup is. I think it's got a chance of hitting a market, niche market, but I'm not sure how many it will have to sell. My concern is it will have to do really well, I think.
It's going to have a gangbuster start if it wants to. Obviously at its launch, you have third-party developers kind of going, yeah, we're backing it. Here's a game. Here's 1 or 2 games from us. And then unless it, goes gangbusters, they're going to struggle to maintain that. As soon as the alarm bells start going off for sales, third-party developers will like, gone. See you later.
I mean, it's not just the launch lineup; it's the next 3 to 6 months after that. They're key.
Yeah, exactly. It's the whole of 2017. They need software. They need sales. They need a solid year like the PS4 had.
Yeah, I mean, people are already talking about Microsoft in negative terms because of the fact they're cancelling big name games like Scalebound. They're saying that Sony has a very strong lineup of games for 2017. It has 35 exclusive games.
That's good because they had a fairly average year last year, didn't they?
They did.
Was it last
year? They did.
Yeah.
There wasn't much out. Uncharted 4 and like a couple of others.
Start of the year, yeah.
This year they got 35, and that's a lot compared to what
incredible,
Xbox have.
I'm shocked that they pulled the pin on Scalebound. Like from the demos that I'd seen, it looked like it was running well, and obviously that's a little slice of the game that was probably polished up for these events, but it must have been pretty bad.
I think the relationship was the issue. I think the relationship had soured, and I think Microsoft have difficult relationships with some of their their developers. I'm not sure why, but I mean it could end up somewhere else. But I think the key with Nintendo is, like you say, the launch lineup has to be good, but also it has to have enough games coming out over that period in order to compete, because it's going to be competing with, whether it likes it or not, it's competing with the PS4 and the Xbox One and potentially the Scorpio later on in the year.
It's a gaming console.
Yeah, it has to find its feet, and it has to find its position in that market.
Yeah, it has to drop some monster software at holiday next year.
Yeah,
this year.
This year, yeah.
And not only that, but even if it does have gangbuster sales and it does get a few good titles, Nintendo need to be proactive and keep, acquiring these timed exclusives and stuff like that. They need to drive, up a reason to buy the system.
Yeah,
because again, I still don't think people are going to buy it if you can just get the same games coming out on it that you can just get on your PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they're not going to play FIFA, are they? If they've already got it on another system.
I mean, Xbox struggle with getting FIFA interest on their system because people just like playing it on PlayStation because it's always been on PlayStation. Like they like the D-pad better on PlayStation as well. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Nintendo have a lot of ground to cover. A lot. It's going to be a busy year for them. All right, hit me, Joe. Hit me with your prediction.
I predict that the Switch is going to have Fight Night at Christmas this year, and I will buy a package with it in, even though I may already have a Switch by then. If it comes out with Fight Night bundled in it, I will go out and buy it again. There you go. That's my prediction. No, that's never going to happen, is it? No, I to be honest, I think the big thing for me is that I think that it will come out, you won't be able to buy it, a lot of people are going to get pissed off with it, and then it's going to start to tail off, and I reckon it will start to tail off before the end of the year.
Yeah, people just stop talking about it.
I think you're right. I mean, I got a Wii at launch, but I was lucky to get one because there weren't many available. But it will be, the supply issue will be interesting to see, how they handle that. Definitely. I think that's key.
I was going to say, they cannot afford to create artificial demand by holding back or not producing enough, because they're not in that position anymore. They need to put them on shelves, give people the chance to buy them. You want people, if the predictions are true and that it's not going to be expensive, then you need to have it so that people can go and buy it as an impulse buy. They need to be able to walk into a game shop and see it on display, and that's the other thing. They need to have it on in the shops. They need to have it with a TV and that in the shop, so you can play it in the shop, and they need to generate buzz. And if people go in the shop and they go, "Oh, look, that's cool," and then they go, "Oh, that looks really cool. I'll buy that. How it's 250, 300 quid or whatever it is they're going to sell it for. I'll go and buy it. Go to the counter. Oh no, sorry, we're out of stock." That's it's going to kill it. It will die.
I think it has to be cheaper than. I think it has to be £199 personally.
I reckon top price 250. But yeah, I agree with you. I think as long as it's one piece of kit and not like two, like they did with the Wii, then yeah, about 199, 250 max.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So my prediction is probably something along the lines of Joe, whereas I think we're going to see supply issues like we have, probably not as bad as what we did with the mini NES, but I think it's going to be a real supply issue. I don't think it's going to be artificially created. I think they are just going to approach it cautiously, and it's probably going to be, I think off the bat it's going to be popular. I think I think that's why we're going to see these supply issues. But in the more of the long-term 2017, I think, like what we covered earlier in the cast, I think this is a console still geared towards families, kids, and parents buying it for their kids. And what I think that means is that even if Nintendo are getting these third-party titles, which they need to capture the hardcore, I don't think these third-party adult experiences are going to be selling nearly as well as what they do on the PS4 and Xbox One. And I think that's going to hurt Nintendo's chances at getting long-term third-party support.
Yeah.
If you're a hardcore gamer, you already have a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One, or you plan on getting a Scorpio, you're not going to buy a Switch for Assassin's Creed.
No, it's not enough of a pull, is it? Really, at the end of the day.
I know. Unless, and this is why this folds into it as well. Unless they're going to do aggressively push timed exclusives, there's no reason for you, myself, or Joe to get one, unless you have kids, or you're really hooked on the idea of having a portable console.
Yeah, completely.
So adding on to that, sorry to butt in here again, but what do you think they might be announcing tomorrow? What might we see tomorrow?
I think we'll just get the price, launch lineup, couple of trailers and demos. They might have some other little surprise up their sleeve. They'll probably drop a couple of big bombshells for what's coming towards the end of the year and early next year, like maybe as a Mario Galaxy 3 or another massive, probably a couple of big third-party bombshells drop, but I reckon that'll probably be it.
Yeah, I think you're right. It says in one of the links that I read, it says, speaking of Nintendo's upcoming console, Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang said that the hybrid console will blow away fans in terms of what Nintendo has been able to achieve with its dedication of their crafting.
Oh, I read that as well.
Dodgy English. Dedication of their crafting. What does that mean?
What does that even mean? Yeah.
You have to
technical wizardry.
You have to understand that this is the same Jensen Huang who did the keynote speech. So
yes,
for Nvidia.
So doesn't know what what he's talking about. Arse doesn't know what Albo's doing.
He's great at creating a technology company, but just don't have him on stage talking. All right.
Maybe they had like the naughty dog engineers like design the hardware.
Yeah, this is what you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just plays The Last of Us on a loop over and over again.
Yep. Put this in, put this in, put this in, put the screws in, you're done.
Yeah, put the screws in. It'll work, honestly. Cross your fingers.
Can we have Uncharted 6? No, you cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Switch is gonna launch with Half-Life 3.
Yeah, with a picture of Shergar on the front. Yeah. Nobody will get that joke unless they're over 40 and British.
All right, well, I think that's pretty much a wrap, isn't it, guys? I think we've covered it all, really.
I think so.
That's pretty much a wrap. So thanks for listening to our first episode of 2017, and hopefully you enjoyed it, and we hope you tune in next week and subscribe. And just quickly, a little reminder that you can find all of our channels down below in the description. We have our Twitters in there as well. And remember, guys, that we are doing the Gears of War giveaway. So you're going to be able to get 2 games in this episode and 2 games in next week's episode. And all you have to do is subscribe, like the video, and time code down below in the description where we cut in that little strange out of place audio clip. And if you are one of 2 of the first commenters who have time coded it down below in the comments, you get the code for Gears of War 1 and Gears of War 2. So on that note, we'll see you next week, guys. Have a good one and see you later.